What's going on, Jeromes? So, as many of you have noticed, the voice is a little bit raspy. Sounded like Sam Elliott. Guts, glory, ram. So, we're working the voice. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Sucking down some lozenges. We got some hot tea. We're drinking all the brown liquor. We're doing all the home remedies and all that stuff. And also, I kind of like it. You're going to like the way you look. I guarantee it. Beef. It's what's for dinner. I don't know. But instead of the normal Q&A where we read everyone, we had like 90 questions cherry picked because I don't know if I can get through 90 questions. So we got a handful and let's go. Cameron Manuski. Would you be fine with a complete rebuild and build around JJ, TJ, and CD? Personally, I think it's time to start over and set a good young foundation for our team. Well, in terms of like a complete teardown or rebuild, like, you can't jettison every single player and just build around those three. Well, now you can effectively do that by ridding yourself of a lot of veteran contracts, sure, but it really doesn't make sense to get rid of guys on the rookie deals. Like, you still have to fill out that 90-man roster. A lot of those guys still have potential as well. So that doesn't make a ton of sense. But I understand the concept of having those three be the tripod on offense going forward and then completely rebooting that defense. So yes, I do agree with that. I think that's essentially what they're going to be doing. Abdul, 1984. We won way more games than expected last season, but now we have no cap space. Cap is a myth. Very few draft picks and lack of talent all over the field. Do you think a total teardown or rebuild would have been the better choice? Not particularly. And we said at the time, with the Vikings keeping around a lot of veterans from the Spielman era and carrying over a lot of those contracts, and because the Vikings could have really stripped down the 2022 salary cap and rolled over cap space to 2023, but Kwesi didn't do that. And one of the reasons why, because I think part of it was Kwesi covering his own ass, whereas like, hey, if things worked out, great, you're one of me. Fantastic. And if they didn't work out, it'd be like, well, it's Spielman's guys. Wait till we get my guys, right? So everything in the NFL is about self-preservation. And I think that two things can be true at once, that the Vikings saw that they could run it back 1 year and see what happens, and also Kwesi was trying to cover his butt. I think both those things happened, and both of those things were true. But it would have been better to tear down and rebuild? Nah. What is your dream draft scenario for the Vikings this year, and how do you think the roster will change this season as far as starters on offense and defense? If the Vikings somehow come away with CJ Stroud, I'll be in. Where I think that the upside of Young and the upside of Levis and Richardson, I think maybe some teams will fall in love with that, sure. Stroud, does he have as high of a ceiling as those other three? Maybe not, but also I think that he does have one of the higher floors. Love his size, love his accuracy, love his competitiveness. Does he have the biggest arm in the draft? No. Does he have elite mobility? No. But I think that he is just an absolute rock-solid quarterback and a guy who can be a franchise dude for years to come. So I love me some CJ Stroud. Like, if he falls outside the top 10, the Vikings go get him. I would be okay with that. Or, you know, if there's a run on quarterbacks and maybe even a run on wide receivers and a lot of elite defensive backs keep falling down, or maybe like Brian Branch is there at 23, I would take that. Wolf, do you think Kevin O'Connell's play calling will improve? And do you see Asamoah starting along with Louis C. and Love Your Channel? So I think overall Kevin O'Connell was a very solid play caller, but situationally, third and short, fourth and short, have a lot of question marks. But also, I mean, did he have the personnel to just, stuff it up in there, like the rugby push, but, going shotgun, going empty backfield on fourth and inches? No. I think that's something that he does need to improve on. Also, being more assertive when it came to Ed Donatel, I wish he would have done more. But, Flores going to be assertive with himself, so we'll see. Asamoah will start. He's going to be a stud. Louis Cine, I think, will be in the rotation. If they bring back Harrison Smith, so Flores does like using three safeties quite a bit. So I think Cine could get involved in a multitude of ways. Cine and Harrison could interchange as being basically a de facto extra linebacker on getting after it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to them next year. Mr. Misanthrope. I know you float around the idea of trading Jefferson as a what-if scenario, but what would an actual trade look like and where you traded him and you'd be okay with? How many picks players? It's starting with 3 first-round picks, and I'm trading him to the AFC. That's it. I mean, that's where it starts and ends. I know we floated the idea, well, what if the Bears offer the number of our pick? And that's important because the Vikings could end up with their future franchise quarterback in that scenario, but nah. Meat sauce. What is the biggest animal you could realistically take in a fight? It's not very big. I think a lot of people overestimate their hand-to-hand fighting skills. So that's why I'm assuming here. So like no weapons, no firearms, etc. And it's not going to be very big. Because like people going to say like, oh, I could fight like a deer, or like a male deer, like a 6 or 7-year-old. No, you can't. No, you couldn't. Or, I could fight a mountain lion because you've seen hikers do that before. No, you can't. No, you could not. And, I mean, it's going to be pretty small. I mean, maybe 70 pounds. Yeah, because the whole thing about it is, like, humans are, 180 pounds, we'll say, like an adult male. And we're just balloons of blood, right? And animals that are made to fight, like pound for pound, they will mess you up. Like 120-pound mountain lion or like a puma or a lynx or something, like they will F you up. So it's going to be relatively small. Like also, like how would you like to fight like a 120-pound German Shepherd? No. So even though you may outweigh the German Shepherd by a couple of multitudes, like they ain't going to win that fight. So I would say probably, I was going to say like an emu, except that's not realistic either. Like, you can't fight a giraffe, even though docilely, like, you could probably take it. So, I don't know. Yeah, well, you could say like a big bird, except no, they'll mess you up too. They're descended from dinosaurs. So, I don't know, like maybe a 50-pound animal? Maybe. Zach Ernaleb. If we don't get further in the playoffs this year with a better defense, hopefully, what do we do about Kirk? Well, I do think they're going to kick the can on Kirk. I think they'll extend him 1 year. That does give them flexibility if they want to trade him next offseason. It doesn't give them flexibility if they want to cut him. But I think hopefully they'll withdraw the no trade clause, which, basically it's whatever. But because I mean, if a trade wants to get done, it's obviously has to be a place where Kirk wants to go anyway. So it's whatever. But hopefully this offseason they will have brought in the quarterback of the future potentially. Kevin DeCow, will you ever cover Premier League content in the offseason since you're a fan of Liverpool? This is not a good year for Liverpool. So actually maybe it being a down year, maybe we got better content so we can be snarky and negative. I don't know, man. But also, so obviously it's great being a Vikings fan and doing Vikings content. I just like Liverpool and where I can just be a fan, where I can just be a full-on casual and just like, boo, Trent Alexander-Arnold, overrated, boo, Virgil van Dijk is old, boo, they should have traded Mo, boo, all that stuff. Their defense is garbage. And what the hell? Mega Johnny, I would sub to a Twins for the Win podcast like immediately. Would you cover some Twins content too? Again, baseball. I'm not as dialed in with baseball as I was when I was a kid. Obviously, still a fan. Obviously, still like going to games. But I love it because I can just be a full-on casual. Maybe we'll start a side channel and like do a video a week of just ranting and stuff like that. Maybe. But again, I like being casual at times, man. Michael Miller, would you trade up 10 spots to get your quarterback if he drops? So taking a look. All right, so would the Vikings move to say where the Texans are at 12 or where the Jets are at 13, Patriots 14? I mean, if the guy is there, sure. Is he going to get there? I really have doubts if Richardson or Levis or Stroud or Young are going to get out of the top 10. In fact, I think that the drop-dead spot is 9 with Carolina. Yeah, I don't see any way that those 4 quarterbacks get out of the top 9 picks. And Richardson might be quarterback 2 or even higher. But if it does happen, sure. Because I think if one of those guys gets out of the top 10, the Eagles would be a prime trade down spot. or teams maneuvering trying to get back up there. Christopher Morrison, would you trade up or back into the mid-second round to get Hendon Hooker? Yes. Now, a lot has been made about Hendon Hooker's age. He's 25, also coming off of ACL, but he has great poise. I love his accuracy. Got a great deep ball as well, and came from the gimmicky sort of Tennessee offense. But I think that the ball he delivers is among the best in this draft, and I think that he should be considered in the mix with the top 4. And a lot of people make a big deal about his age, but quarterbacks, like we said, have been playing at a high level into his mid and late 30s. Even though by the time he's done with his rookie deal, if he's a second round pick, he'll be 29, which Reptar, who's your draft crush that could be there for the Vikings at 23, and then a guy who you love that's projected to go in the mid-rounds? It could be a steal. Guys I love at 23, Brian Branch probably won't be there. Joey Porter Jr. I love. Addison and Zay Flowers, the receivers. Bijan Robinson, I can't get away from him, man. I just can't quit him. Brian Bruzzi is certainly up there as well. I don't know if he gets to 23, but I mean, there's a lot of guys that would be. I mean, it's what happens with the Ravens all the time, where they just sit at the back end of the first round and then they just get amazing players, or they trade down. And the Vikings are in that spot right now. In terms of mid-round guys, I'd really like Antonio Johnson, the safety from Texas A&M. I think he could potentially sneak into the first round. He's like a diet Brian Branch. Kayshon Boutte, the wide receiver from LSU. LSU connection. Keanu Benton, the nose tackle from Wisconsin, I think would be great in what Flores wants to do. Trent Simpson, of course, being paired up with Brian Asamoah would be fantastic as well. Corey Saylor, what positions in this year's draft are the strongest and weakest? Well, Daniel Jeremiah pointed out what a lot of people have already come to consensus on. It's a great cornerback class. It is a great tight end class. It's a pretty solid running back class. And it's a good edge rusher class. DJ did say it's a weak wide receiver class. I disagree. I agree with the premise that it's weak in terms of guys that are looking to be wide receiver 1s. But if you're looking for a wide receiver 2, this is a fantastic class. And that's exactly what the Vikings are looking for, someone to operate next to Justin Jefferson. So whether it's Addison or Smith and Jigba or Zay Flowers or whoever, like, this is a great wide receiver 2 class, not a great wide receiver 1 class. Like, who would you say of the wide receivers would you wager is going to be a superstar? Maybe Johnston, sure. Even though I'm not in as much a love with Johnson as a lot of people are. Then a couple more. It's Tristan. Should the Vikings trade up in this year's draft or trade down? I'd say given the Vikings' current draft pick situation with 5, and also the fact that they don't have a second round pick, I think trading down would make sense, especially since, I don't know, from like 20 to 60, it's going to be relatively flat in terms of talent. Sure. Out of all 10,000 lakes in Minnesota, which one is your favorite? Lake Carlos up in Alexandria. And do you have a favorite XFL, USFL team? I like the St. Louis Battlehawks. Let's go. T-Money. Could you see Thielen and Diggs reuniting in Buffalo, assuming we let Thielen go? I don't even know if Diggs is going to be in Buffalo next year. I think he's sort of champing at the bit for a trade, which should surprise no one. The Destruct one. This free agency, do you have anybody of note that you would want to see on the team? Would love Dalton Reisner. Would love Ethan Pocic along the offensive line. Javon Hargrave. I mean, if we're swinging, we may as well swing for the fences, man. Would love to see Diesel Dalvin Tomlinson back. I mean, Deron Payne is a given. I do like the Bengals linebacker, Jermaine Pratt. I think that he would be a nice pairing with Asamoah. No, I don't hold his locker room comments after the Super Bowl against him. Also, slot cornerback-wise, Nick Needham was with the Dolphins when Flores was there. I think he would be a phenomenal addition as well. Let's hear. If interior offensive line were to be fixed with the possibility of great blocking, would you be willing to keep Dalvin without a pay cut? After all, he ran for 1,000 yards behind a very sketchy interior offensive line. No, not at 10.4. No, I'm not about that life right now. And then lastly, should we sign Bobby Wagner? If the defense was one piece away, sure, but they're many pieces away. Even though Bobby Wagner is defying time, like he you can make a good case he was the best off-ball linebacker in the league last year on a very poor Rams defense. So he did the damn thing last year. Big time respect, but now's not the time. Like again, if the Vikings were a young, hungry defense and they just needed an off-ball linebacker, sure. But right now, they're more than Bobby Wagner away. But that's it. That's a quick little Q&A. Again, the voice raspy. Let us know your thoughts on our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Won't support the work. Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skull Production Value.